but it's just our conditioning through the years dealing with those various relationships that sometimes I have to tell my girlfriend that, hey, I know it's not you. Give me a moment. Let me think about this through. I'm not done with this conversation. I'm going to come back to it, but something's coming up for me right now, which I don't think it has to do with you, but it's something I need to manage real quick. Let me take a moment to think about it. And that's how we talk to each other, because things come up for her on her end that has nothing to do with me, but it has to do with a past relationship, but it's reflecting that past relationship. So we automatically go into a trigger of some sort. So that's where the art of listening is challenging, but this is where you also learn how to gain emotional intelligence. Because when you learn how to control your emotions, it makes you more a type of person that can have more control over yourself and over your life.
Hello and welcome. I'm Andreea Parc.
And I'm Dumitru.
And welcome to How I Escaped the Mental Prison. It's a podcast where we explore real life stories of overcoming life's challenges, because none of us are immune to them, and how these experiences shaped our journey. Today, we have with us a great friend and probably the person who is responsible for me starting this podcast, Len DeCarmine. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. A dedicated men's coach where he empowers men to reconnect with their authentic selves and tap into their inner strength to build fulfilling lives and relationships. He inspires men to step into their highest potential with courage and integrity. With over a decade of experience, having coached hundreds of individuals, Len's impact is far-reaching. Len brings his certified expertise and genuine passion to transforming the lives of others. Len is a four-time international best-selling author and winner of the International Impact Book Award for his book 1% More: The Hidden Force to Creating Extraordinary Results. He's a speaker, podcaster, and has been featured in numerous publications and podcast shows. Welcome, Len, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Andreea, thank you for the opportunity as well, and the warm introduction. And don't worry about the name. I mess up names all the time as well. Being a podcaster myself, you always get stumped with those tricky names, and I totally get it. You're forgiven, no worries. But I'm excited to be here. I feel that we're gonna have a great time together, and I'm glad that I inspired you as well to start this podcast show. I can really see here that you're in your element. Plus, bringing your daughter in really helps make this. I can see that this is going to be a very impactful show that's going to continue and grow for the two of you, which is fantastic.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. So let me start by asking you, why being a coach and why men?
Great. That's a wonderful question, and I appreciate it. I feel it's also a loaded question too, because I might have to take us back a bit in my own personal history and what really got me here. Uh, I'm always been a person who loves to help others, love to serve in some way or another. Having that feeling inside of me has brought me through multiple jobs and multiple careers throughout my life where I can figure out how to serve someone. At one point, I worked for Big Brother Big Sister as a counselor for young adults. I worked in tobacco prevention. I've done security. I worked with the police department. I was a volunteer firefighter at EMT, and I was been in sales where I can serve people there, helping selling them home security systems. So as you can see that my pattern here a little bit from some of my earlier careers, that I've always been in a place to serve, which eventually I also became a real estate agent. And that there also led me into place to serve because I wanted to help people get the American dream, be able to buy a house, be able to understand real estate. But as I was going through that process, I loved it, but I felt that there was more for me. There was much more for me to serve people at a higher level where I can make real impact in their lives. I was making impact in their lives in the other careers and even in real estate, but I felt that there was more. So as I was learning from all these other coaches throughout my real estate career and how to do sales, how to have the right mindset, how to grow, I decided to look more into the opportunity to coach. And I've been following Tony Robbins and a number of other gurus since the age of 16. I've always been in personal development, but I never really took the time to really think about how can I serve people at a higher level? How can coaching fit in to what I'm doing? And I felt that was coaching already, especially in real estate. I had to help them get through the buying process or help a seller sell their home and coach them on marketing, on being able to figure out their next steps in that home buying process. So as I started to make more money in real estate, I started to invest more in myself and I started to learn fundamentals of coaching to figure out how can I add this into what I'm doing as a realtor. Then I started to learn a little bit more about hypnotherapy and I got myself trained as a hypnotherapist. And then I just got hungry for more. I just wanted more and more knowledge, which eventually led me into all this additional training plus everything I learned in real estate to add on to what I'm doing to lead me into the direction that, you know what, coaching is where I want to be. Plus, it was a lot less stressful than real estate. Okay, because I was also getting tired of getting phone calls, at 2 a.m. during the week because somebody's stressing out about their home buying process. So I figured, what else can I be doing that can still give me a place to serve and still help transform people's lives without getting those 2 o'clock in the morning calls? So I decided to begin building my career up in coaching. And that kind of led me into coaching. Now, to answer the second part of your question, why men? Okay. Why men? You could have gone into real estate coaching, into business coaching, but why did you decide to pick men? And that was a decision that took me a long time to figure out. But I realized I had to go with what I knew best from my own personal experience because I lived through a lot of different changes throughout my life. And what got me into this even more so was I was a young father. I had my daughter when I was 19 years old with my former wife. And that was a large struggle. Being 19, I'm barely in college, already taking on the responsibility of being an adult quicker than I expected, and also taking care of a life. And throughout that time frame, my ex-wife and I did not see eye to eye. And that was because of my own lack of experience of understanding relationships, understanding the female counterpart, and also not really dealing with the childhood trauma that I also dealt with. And all that eventually started to snowball into our relationship. And she had her own issues that she had to deal with too. And she wasn't mature yet either, like I wasn't myself. But we just couldn't figure out how to make this work. And after 3 separations and 3 children, because every time we got back together, we had another child, that did not fix the issue at all. So I don't recommend that to any listeners, okay? But it just happened. And over time, I went through a lot of ups and downs because of that relationship. One, I didn't deal with my own personal trauma that I dealt with as a child. Myself, I was verbally abused by my father, never feeling good enough, always being talked down to. And then that feeling came into my relationship where I'm always been an entrepreneur at heart. And my ex-wife was more traditional based upon how she was raised with her father having a 9-to-5 job. So that was always a conflict between me wanting to be an entrepreneur and holding down a 9-to-5 job to support my family. So we always conflicted with those things. And that was just one example of the many other things based upon our values, the things that we were dealing with as well. And over time, I went through a roller coaster of emotions. I went from, heartache to depression to suicidal thoughts, not finding my way in life, not having a direction that I needed to go. I lost clarity. I lost clarity because when I was in college, my goal was to become a police officer, to serve people. But when I had a child at 19, my ex-wife decided that, no, we don't want you to do that anymore. We want you to be alive and safe, which I appreciate that for. But that threw off my whole entire life trajectory of what I was going to do. So from that point, I had no clarity anymore. So I floated from sales career to, working part-time at jobs and just mixing and matching things that I didn't feel really resonated with me. So I never became good at them because it just wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to serve and protect people. I wanted to be a police officer. So losing my clarity, not being a leader in my marriage, I lost that as well. Because my former wife didn't view me as a man of the household. I lost my leadership, my feeling to be able to lead the relationship, to fill that role as a protector for her in that regards, because probably due to my own inexperience of knowing how to do those things, because I wasn't really guided by my father, and I was pulling what I learned from my father, which wasn't good stuff. But I was also smart enough to know that not to do certain things either. But as we all know, we all end up becoming a parent one way or another, even though we don't like it. All right. I see someone shaking her head. Yes. So you just have to just be aware of those things. So I lost clarity. I lost leadership in my role, and even for myself, like, how am I going to lead my family? And all that also brought me into a loss of connection. And that loss of connection, I lost connection with myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know where I stood. Part of me felt like I married my father because of just the interactions that we had between each other, where I always constantly felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough. So I lost connection with myself. It also made me lose connection with her. So realizing all of this, I realized that I've been through so much. I've been through a marriage. I've been through a divorce. I've been through a separation of my children and that pain and suffering that I went through. And I'm thinking, I don't want other men to have to deal with this either. I want to be able to show them that there is another way, a way to have a healthier relationship, not only with their partner, but with them, because it really comes back to you. If you're not complete and healthy and aligned, both mentally, physically, spiritually, you're no good for your relationship. And that's the truth. So I teach men that they don't need to have their partner come to training with me, that they can come on their own, where they can have that freedom to speak how they want to speak without feeling judged. So that's what eventually led me into going into men's coaching. And what I share with you about connection, leadership, clarity, leadership, and connection are all the three main pillars that I teach men inside my program, so that they can find what they need to either be a better partner for a new relationship or restore their current relationship by stepping up, by coming into the relationship differently, by having new tools where they can communicate differently with their partner, to hold a space where both of them feel safe within what I like to call a container. So when they're having conversations, both of them can both feel listened and heard, and really start to listen to each other's language patterns, because as both of you know, men speak differently than women. And we need to understand what those language patterns are and when to pick up with them, or when to ask a deeper question, or to ask, do you want me to help solve this problem, or you just want me to listen? Because that sometimes, as you both know, sometimes you just want to be listened to. So I help them understand those things through my program. And that's how I started my coaching journey. And that's how I decided to go into men's coaching. And that's what has brought me here today with you two wonderful ladies.
Wow. I didn't know you have 3 children. God bless.
Thank you. They're all grown now. So they're all at college, one's married. Thank you.
God bless. It's yes, I listened to, I don't remember his name, talking about how important is to listen to each other. The art of listening, which is I'm challenging myself with Alexa sometimes to pull myself back and listen to what she has to say, not react to from my preset thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. People don't realize that listening is actually hard because as we're listening, we have our own trauma coming up. We're having our own reactions to things, which may not really be necessary for the conversation. That we have to step back and think about, okay, she's saying this, but why is this feeling of agitation coming out? Why is this feeling of I want to lash out verbally to my partner? And a lot of times it's just subconscious pain that maybe the way your partner said something sounded like your mother, sounded like your father, sounded like a past relationship, not meaning anything that that's where that person was coming from, but it's just our conditioning through the years dealing with those various relationships that sometimes I have to tell my girlfriend that, hey, I know it's not you. Give me a moment. Let me think about this through. I'm not done with this conversation. I'm going to come back to it, but something's coming up for me right now, which I don't think it has to do with you, but it's something I need to manage real quick. Let me take a moment to think about it. And that's how we talk to each other because things come up for her on her end that has nothing to do with me, but it has to do with a past relationship, but it's reflecting that past relationship. So we automatically go into a trigger of some sort. So that's where the art of listening is challenging, but this is where you also learn how to gain emotional intelligence. Because when you learn how to control your emotions, it makes you more type of person that can have more control over yourself and over your life. Because it's our emotions that take over. And sometimes our bodies feel it before we actually verbally say that emotion. You can start feeling the goosebumps on your arm and the hairs stand up like something's coming up. I feel it. My intuition is like, I know she's going to say something and it's going to get me fired up about something. But sometimes I have to step back and be like, it's really not her. It's something else from the past. So that's just something I wanted to share with our listeners here, that really think about what is really happening in the moment. And is it your partner or is it you? Do you have to take a step back? And if so, say it, but just let that person know that you're going to come back to the conversation. That's the key thing, because you don't want to think that you're avoiding the conversation, because that's going to upset the other person.
Yeah. And it's the art of listening that's very important. And also, I believe, is the awareness to be able to stop and take a breath and think of what would the proper answer be instead of snapping into the answer. That
Correct.
is that for me is big, because just as you said, stop, let me come back to you, let me think of a proper answer, so we don't hurt the other person out of our past emotional buttons that were triggered by this conversation. So in your work, is there any pattern that men might come to you for coaching? Have you seen any recurring issue in men that for us women maybe would be helpful to know?
Yeah, a lot of men come to me in regards to a relationship where number one is that they don't feel respected in their relationship. You know, with all the hard work that they do, working, helping out, that they just don't feel respected in their relationship by their partner. And that's really the one main thing men want over anything, is to feel respected. Now, there are some men that probably don't deserve that respect because they're doing nothing with their lives and not contributing or not helping out the relationship. But for those guys that are a part of their relationship and are proactive in it, that's what I'm hearing. One is that they don't feel respected by their partner. The other one is also that they don't feel listened or heard either, because we are, as men, we always have this protective force around it, that we're always there to protect our partner in some way. And sometimes that does hold a heavy weight on our shoulders to make sure that, even though women love to be independent, we still have that innate desire to support them financially, to make sure that they feel loved, to make sure that they're getting everything that they need, even though we know that they can do it themselves. But I know I've seen deep down inside that women still love that, still want to feel that protection by their male counterpart in their relationship. So not being heard is the other one, and also not feeling safe to be vulnerable. Sometimes a lot of men do want to be vulnerable with their partner, but they feel that they might be shamed or judged by their partner and may not see that being manly to their partner and have an issue with that. So I try to teach them that just you need to go about it in a way and hold a container for the two of you where you can share your vulnerability in a way that still allows you to feel masculine in what you're doing, but also sharing who you are. Because I've just seen with our feminine counterpart, with women, that women do love that authenticity coming from their partner, that openness, that sharing, that gives them that little bit of vulnerability that they can see. Because I've noticed that women tend to love their partner more when they see that, not when they're shut off. And that goes both ways. I know with myself,
Yeah.
it's hard to love somebody who is shut off, and you can't open their heart. You can't get into their heart. But if men can learn how to be more present and have women feel that presence in that with them in that moment where the male can share their vulnerability, then their female counterpart can feel that love and energy as well, and feel that authenticity coming from their partner. So those are the things that I see as a pattern with dealing with men's coaching and working with men. And there's a few others, but those are the top three that I see that come up quite often.
We as
Yes, go ahead.
women, what can we as women do to support our men, fathers, brothers, partners in this journey of their masculinity and their energy? And how can we support them?
Sure. Well, number one, like I said before, let them feel respected. Show that respect to them, and however you see that that person needs that respect to show up for them in their lives. And I always like to tell women is like ask their brother, sister, father, boyfriend, husband, do you feel respect? Do you feel that I respect you? And if you don't feel that way, tell me how I can help you feel more respected in our relationship. Because that's what men I've seen, and I've read studies that men want to respect more than they want to feel loved. But those two do go hand in hand for a man. Feeling respected is love for them more than the actual love itself. So that would be number one. The other ways to do this is to give them a space to allow them to feel vulnerable without feeling shamed or feeling that I know not all women, but some women do take that vulnerability that a man shared with them and does twist it. And men are concerned about that. Are you going to pull that back up and throw it back in my face during an argument because I wanted to share my vulnerability with you? So I think also giving them that safe space to communicate with you, okay? And then also, men also need that space away. We do, we've all heard about the man cave and things of that nature. Sometimes we do just need that space, and it has nothing to do with not wanting to be with you, not being wanting to be around you. Sometimes we just need to go into our cave. Now, I do tell men not to be there long. You don't want to be there for days on end and isolate yourself and just be playing video games or not paying attention to your partner. But there are times where, you know, allow your partner to just go to the gym. You know, if that's his space and he needs to go to the gym for an hour every single day, then just give him that space to go do that, because he'll come back respecting you, wanting you, loving you, because you gave him that grace to go and do what he needs to do, and for him to feel, to release some of that energy, to, you know, because sometimes we do like to isolate ourselves. And that's just the way a lot of men are in regards to that. So hopefully that was helpful, just to kind of give you some insight and ideas to get the ball rolling. But I always emphasize a lot with my clients that communication is the key. Really got to speak to your partner. You really have to show up and have those uncomfortable conversations, because the problem is that sometimes both people in a relationship make what's called a covert contract, that I went to go see this movie with you. Now you have to go see this movie with me, but don't ever say it. And then the other person gets upset because they didn't go see that movie with them when they were asked. So we have a tendency of, oh, you took out the garbage, therefore you need to do this for me. And that's not always the case, because we make up these assumptions or have these false expectations of our partner, but we never communicated that to them. And that's really one of the big killers, is that you need to say, hey, this is what I would like for us to see. You do this role, I'm going to do this role. And that's so that we both know that these are the positions that we're going to be taking in our relationship or in our household or with our children. And that we have a clear understanding and clear boundaries that, okay, you're going to take out the garbage, but I'm not going to harp on you when you need to take out the garbage, but you just know you just need to take out the garbage before the garbage man picks it up. Okay. Then after that, the other person can complain, be like, why did you take out the garbage after I told you? But we don't want to put on time restraints and have false expectations and make assumptions, because that just ends up causing resentment from whomever is dealing with that issue. But you have to have that communication. Sure about what you want in the bedroom, intimacy wise. What do you like? What do you don't like? What are some of your dreams, your fantasies? A lot of couples don't express that either. You know, how do you want to raise the children? Who's going to be taking kids to after school activity? Who's not? What's going to be this role? What's going to be that role? And I think people have a better understanding of that and really sat down and had that uncomfortable conversation to figure out what was what, relationships could be a lot better. For sure.
Something so simple, yet the hardest thing to do.
I agree. Because a lot of it comes from our childhood trauma, our baggage that we bring from other things. And it's not all childhood, but from past relationships and things of that nature that we pull in. But yes, a lot of things are very simple. A lot of things are just common sense when it comes down to it. But people just can't, for some reason, because of, you know, maybe they're having, based upon their attachment style, maybe they're just somebody who just avoids things. Maybe they're just anxious and feel insecure about things. They don't know what to do and they just don't do anything. So you just need to learn how to become just a little bit more secure in yourself, build up that confidence. And that's having those uncomfortable conversations daily, one way or another, with your partner or with, you know, coworkers, whatever that issue might be. But start building up that muscle to be able to have those conversations with people, no matter where you are, personally or professionally.
It's so interesting that a few weeks ago, while in Romania, we had a guest and we spoke about femininity and how it's very hard for us women to be managers and leaders at work and feminine at home. And it's interesting what you're saying, that it's basically back to communication. Nothing functions well without communication, especially that, and I don't know if you remember George Carlin, the
Yeah.
comedian. He had a stand-up at one point where he was making fun of the women's brain comparing
Mhm.
to the men's brain, that the women had all kinds of little boxes and the man only has three, very
That's right.
simple and to the
Pretty much.
point.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we need to understand as women that men, we need to communicate what we're
Mhm.
thinking. Out of all the little boxes, the man's brain is very simple. Just tell him what you want. He's not there to read your mind. Communication is the key, not letting all the fun aside. Communication is the key to
Yes.
all relationships.
Yeah, and as you both know, men and women communicate differently. And like you said, women have a whole bunch of more boxes in their head of thinking about all these other things, and your brains move faster at times than men's brains in regards to communications. We speak a lot less words than women do in that regards. And also going back to what you brought up about femininity, it is, I agree with you in this modern world, we both sexes have both masculine and feminine energy
Yeah.
inside them. We switch in between them based upon what's going on throughout our days and ebb and flow, with women being in more of a masculine role throughout their day, being in the workforce or being at the gym. Those are masculine energy roles. When what a lot of men want, they appreciate that. They like seeing that. But when you're in your relationship, men do want not to compete with another masculine energy. They want
Yeah.
that femininity from their female partner because that's what we crave. We want that energy. Your light in that regards
Yeah.
helps fill our bucket, our energy, having that. And that's how we are made up. Then that's why we balance each other out in those. And that's what men really want. They want that feminine energy when they come home or being when they're around their partner. They want them to feel attractive and feel in themselves. And then as men, we can feel and embrace you more because we want to protect the feminine. We want to wrap our arms around her and protect that energy so that she can feel safe and do what she needs to do within our presence. And then both partners, both energies can feel present together. And then there's more of a connection between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's all about energies,
Yes.
as we say. So as we approach the end of our time together, what piece of wisdom would you like to impart, to share with our listeners from your point of view?
No, I love that question. Tough one because I have a whole bunch of different ideas. But for the listeners, for our listeners, really just get in tune with yourself. See where you are currently in your life and what you really want moving further into your life. And to really look at it in a way that ways for you to uncover some new blind spots that you might be not seeing. Look at the way you are showing up in your relationship. Look at the way you're showing up at work. Look at your way you're showing up with other friends and family. And you're going to see a pattern there. And you may not like the pattern that you see because you might be showing up in a way that is not positive and that you might need to take a step back. So I would love for your listeners to really analyze and look at their lives from a different perspective and even ask people, how do I show up to you? Ask your partner, ask your friends, take some personal inventory of how you're showing up because you might be thinking that you're showing up and you're amazing. And then you realize that your friends find you to be a pain in the butt half the time. But you don't notice that because they don't always tell you. But I think if you could take some personal inventory on how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up for your partner, how you're showing up for other people in your lives, that's going to tell you a lot about who you are and areas that you may not be noticing that you can go and fix and find those blind spots and start making some adjustments, especially now that, we're going into a new season, a new year here shortly. And this is a great opportunity to move forward and make those changes for yourselves.
Thank you so much. So where can our listeners find you? Give us all the information.
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a website called mindfulmanmethod.com. They're welcome to come there. I have some great information. I have some trainings on there as well, some short videos that they can watch to learn a little bit more about how to improve their relationship, learn a little bit about myself, and as well as the programs that I currently offer to assist men on their journey for growth. And any of the women listeners out there, please send your men to that site. Let them know that you heard about this, and I'll be glad to help them or help you out in regards to making those little adjustments that you might need for your relationship as well on your end, and then help them be able to find that clarity, gain that leadership, and have a greater connection for themselves so they can be a better partner, better husband, and a better person for our communities in the long run.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time with us today. It was great information.
A pleasure.
And we welcome you in the future as well.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate both of you, and this has been fun, and I love it, and I can't wait to share this with the world. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.